Final Fantasy VII is one of the most legendary RPGs out there, so let's see how they tackle the same universe with a shooter genre in Dirge Cerberus, Final Fantasy VII. Dirge Cerberus, Final Fantasy VII is a third-person shooter game developed and published by Square Enix, with some help from Monolith Soft, for the PlayStation 2 on January 26, 2006 in Japan, and eventually internationally during the months of the same year. It's part of a compilation of Final Fantasy VII which featured various games and spin-offs and even anime to boot. Too many cooks is what I describe the compilation, as it feels like a mess of various platforms like mobile games and spin-offs that almost feel like it was competing with Kingdom Hearts to confuse players who wanted to get into the Final Fantasy VII series. At the very least with this game, we ended up with more expanded lore about one of the best side characters in the Final Fantasy universe, Vincent Valentine. And with that said, let's jump into the story and don some nostalgia goggles. The story of Dirge Cerberus follows Vincent Valentine 3 years after the events of the original Final Fantasy VII and 1 year after the events of Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, as Vincent is attacked by an unknown group of powerful soldiers that open fire on the citizens of Calm. While Vincent runs around saving the town, he eventually encounters some strange beings known as the VII, who are seeking the proto-materia. Who are these mysterious villains, and what lies in store for Vincent in this action-packed adventure? Who knows, but I'm sure with a bit of lead and materia we'll soon find out. Dirge Cerberus Final Fantasy VII will run you around 14 hours to beat and 34 hours to complete fully, which is actually pretty damn good for a shooter game in an RPG game world. Just means there's a lot to do and a lot to see. So with that said, let's take a look at the graphics and see if they can satisfy your average Final Fantasy fan. The graphics for Dirge Cerberus seem to have a similarity to that of the Kingdom Hearts games, but combined with its own art style to give it some individuality. I like the way the characters look, with special love and attention given to Vincent and his weaponry, and the enemies and bosses are done well too. The environments, while sometimes feeling empty, still give me something nice to look at while I'm gunning down foes and rushing through hallways to get to the end. I have to hand it to Square, because when it comes to Final Fantasy, they really pull out all the stops on this one, and it shows with the graphical fidelity of the cutscenes, which make you feel like you're watching another Advent Children film. Needless to say, Dirge Cerberus looks fantastic, even if it's not perfect, so let's listen in on the audio and see if it follows suit. Steve Bloom, Steve Bloom, Steve Bloom! So as you can tell, the voice acting in this game is fantastic, and that's in no small way thanks to Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo's own Steve Bloom, who rocks the mic as Vincent Valentine.
Finished. But Yuffie, I want you to check the Mako cannon.
But we already... What the...
Just as I thought.
Hold on. Hold on! This is crazy! There's no way anybody could be up there, no!
Yuffie, rendezvous with Cloud and the others. It looks like I still have some work to do.
Hey!
Carrie Walgren and Brad Abro also do great work, as well as many others who form an audio-pleasing cast of characters. They embody the quality to expect when it comes to certain Square Enix titles, and this one is no different. With that said, it's no surprise that the orchestral soundtrack that Square brings to this game is also top-notch, where the intro cutscene just really wows and astounds you with some heavy angelic tunes. Though I'll admit some of the music isn't my favorite, but that's okay. You can't always have unrelenting action music during quiet sections as you run through the maps. At least you can count on the boss music to have you covered in that respect. In the end, Dirge of Cerberus delivers on audio fit for many of your music libraries, and so we can jump into the action and wrap this adventure up with a tidy bow. Dirge of Cerberus' gameplay is quick, actiony, but a bit weighted sometimes. Those of you familiar with third-person shooters will feel right at home with this game, while newbies will take a while with the controls. Actually, maybe veterans will take a second or two as well, given how the R1 is what shoots in this game instead of R2, and how the directional buttons make you select as well as use items, so you might accidentally pop a potion from time to time like I did. Regardless, once you pick up the pace, it becomes a fun and easy process of planting lead in your enemies, with decent movement speed as well as a floaty mid-air descent that helps you aim while in the air. My only complaint is how dodging can eventually stop you on your tracks, but that's a minor complaint when you have items and materia to help you out. I will say that to make another Final Fantasy VII game in a different genre seemed like it would have been hard to find the mechanics to make things more interesting. But I appreciate Square for adding RPG elements to help them blend in with the shooter genre to make things new and interesting, while still introducing familiarity to RPG fans. This comes in the form of the customization you have of your weapon, with various options like changing barrels, adding scopes, to even adding materia to give you various ways to switch up your playstyle until you find your comfort zone. You also get experience and level up like any RPG, or you can sacrifice your experience for gil if you're short on cash. You can even activate Vincent Valentine's Limit Break, which just like the original Final Fantasy VII game, has Vincent transforming into a creature from a horror game to dish out some pain to your foes. Melee as well as range too. You can even play as Cait Sith in the game with stealth sections, but we don't talk about those. We won't ever talk about those. In short, Dirge of Cerberus delivers a fun arcadey experience for third-person shooter fans while having RPG elements to ease original Final Fantasy VII fans into this newer experience. I truly feel it has something for everyone. Dirge of Cerberus Final Fantasy VII is a fun shooter with fantastic visuals, a beautiful cast of voice actors, and an overall package that does justice to Final Fantasy VII as a whole. I heard the Japanese version had an online mode where you could create your own character for doing missions, and I'm sad as hell that we never got that in the States. Nevertheless, Dirge of Cerberus is an underrated Final Fantasy game that not only deserves more love, but also deserves a remake if anything, and deserves Square giving the shooter genre another shot. Or you know what? Maybe not. Well hey, this isn't the only Final Fantasy game that is underrated among the many, and one day I hope to cover the others. So drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more UnderRadar, and share this video around if you think we need more UnderRadar in the world. Thank you guys for another fantastic episode of UnderRadar, and I'll see you on the next one.